Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to be making the pear or whale sculpture template. And this is the part here for the main body. So go ahead and roll out a slab of clay 5mm thick or 1/2 centimetre thick, whichever you work in. And then start laying out the template parts and cut round like I'm doing in the video. So for the tail we need 2 halves. You can choose to use one if you want to, and if you don't want to make it hollow. But this template I've decided to make the tail slightly hollow, gives it a little bit more strength so it doesn't break off as easily. As you can see, I've cut out the body section and I've marked out all the darts, and now I'm cutting them out using a sharp tool. So then once you've cut out all the darts, you need to score on the surface of the clay. That just means roughing up the surface of the clay with a sharp tool and then adding some slip and then pushing the darts together with your hands as I'm doing in the video. So go ahead and do all those darts on both sides and leave that clay slip to firm up until it doesn't transfer onto your finger, and then we can go ahead and start blending in those joins. That's the last one there. And then pop that to one side and do the other one. Exactly the same. Can give the clay a little wiggle to make the join a little bit more secure, but try not to squash the clay slab. That distorts the clay. That's that last one there. Round it out slightly with your fingers. Cup your hand and hold it in your hand so it gives it a nice round shape. And then turn them upside down and leave them to firm up slightly. Now let's work on the tail. Similar technique, hold it in your hands and just press your thumbs so it rounds it out slightly in the tail section. Now I've made a little plaster bat there just to help the clay to firm up a little bit more, a little bit faster, because we don't want this to be floppy when we attach it. We want it to be leather hard. So once you've got the shape that you want and you've cooked it slightly, and then just try it dry next to the other side and just make sure it matches up. And then I'm using a trimming tool here just to take the very edge off that clay slab on the inside so it's a nicer fit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to score or rough up the surface of the clay all the way around the edge and add thick slip. And there you go, I'm scoring the surface of the clay just on the inside where I'm going to add the slip. Now, if you don't know how to make thick slip, then I have got a free video to watch on my YouTube channel. And if you've purchased this template, I will have sent you the link to your Etsy messages, so you can easily watch that video just to make sure that you've got your slip to the nice thick consistency so that you don't get any cracks and your joins are successful. So now in the video, I am blending in the body, all these darts that we slipped together earlier. I'm using my fingers just to blend in these darts on the inside and out. So at this point now you can make sure that the shape is as you would want it to be, and making sure that that bottom that's been resting on the board isn't flat, nice and rounded out. And now we're going to add the thick slip to the edge that we've scored on the tail all the way around. I'm just using an old paintbrush to apply the thick slip and making sure to cover any area that I've scored and not leaving any bald patches. Now I'm just going to pinch the very edge all the way around, which gives it an illusion of a thinner edge to make it look like a real tail. But the reason why I decided to do a hollow tail is because it's got more strength in it, so it's less likely to snap off after it's been fired if it's knocked. And then what we're going to do, as it is in hollow form, you do need to ensure there's airflow if you're going to fire it on a normal firing. If you're willing to wait for a long period of time, you can fire this as a closed form, but there's risk involved in that. So it's always best to put a little pinhole somewhere in your sculpture, and I'm going to leave you to decide where you would put this pinhole. I'm going to put mine at the base of the tail straight into the body. So as you can see, I've lined the two pieces up after I've scored and slipped the body edge, just as we did before with the tail. I've given it a little wiggle And now I'm going to make sure I blend in all those joins. Now it's time to add the tail to the body. Now, as we can make a pear out of this template too, the technique is exactly the same. So if you were just going to be building a pear today, you would make the body of the pear exactly the same as you're doing the whale. You would poke a hole in the top there and add your stalk and leaf, and I shall show you that in the video a little bit later on what that looks like. But as it's exactly the same technique, I'm not going to show you how to assemble the pear today. Here's the pear that I made earlier. It's exactly the same shape body as you can see. Just pops in there, and then you just add the stalk and leaf to the top. And I've just added a little bit of detail to the bottom of that. So let's go ahead now and attach the tail for the whale. It rhymes. So I'm using a wooden sculpture tool just to make the hole a little bit bigger. Make sure it's going to be a nice fit, and it's going to go in there like that. So I'm going to add some thick slip now to the hole. Make sure I add plenty. Now at this point you could add a hole to the tail before you attach it to the body so that the air flows from the tail into the body. But as the thick slip might block up the hole and you won't be able to see, it's probably better to add the hole once it's attached. So make sure you position it and let it firm up until the clay slip doesn't transfer onto your finger, and then you can start blending in that join. And then once it's gone leather hard, you'll be able to lift it up and make a hole through the back of the tail just there. That's where I would choose to put it. But don't forget that whales have a blowhole, they've got a mouth, so there's lots of options to add holes that would naturally be there if you want to. But if not, just a small pinhole in the body and in the tail, somewhere discreet, so that the air can flow and it will fire successfully. You can fire a closed form if you want to, but you would have to candle before you go on to your main firing for at least half an hour to allow the vapour to escape from the clay, what's left. So here I'm just making the fins for the whale. I've included them in the template for you to take the guesswork out. So you need 2 of those, and they just score and slip on the side in the position that you choose. At this point, I would suggest you look up images of whales on the internet, so you've got a sculptural reference. And then for the eyes, it's down to you to decide if you're going to go for cartoon-like I did, or you could go for more realistic if you wanted to, just by making an indentation. Now here I've made some eyeball stamps, and that's how I've decided to make my eyes, and I literally they're like half a ball, half a sphere with a flat bottom, and then I score and slip those on. I added a mouth by just carving into the front of the face with a sharp tool, just slicing in where I joined the 2 halves together earlier, and then just shaping it a little bit, adding some sausages of clay, blending it in. There's all sorts of options you could do. You could literally just draw on a mouth without actually cutting through, but I decided to use the mouth as an air hole as well, and also added a blowhole to the top, as you can see there. He's really cute. It turned out really nice. But obviously have a look on the internet for sculptural references, see what you can come up with yourself. So thanks for watching. Like and comment, please share, and don't forget to subscribe.